The last type of rock that we have to talk about is metamorphic rock. And the important thing is that metamorphic rocks will either start out as igneous, sedimentary, or even metamorphic rocks. And we call that starting rock as the parent rock. And so either heat and or pressure changes is going to change the rock's physical or chemical makeup. When a rock is exposed to extreme heat or pressure, the ions move and new minerals will form. These new minerals are going to be more stable in that new environment with either a higher temperature or a higher pressure or both. It does not cause the rock to melt completely. There'll be a little melting, enough to rearrange those ions and atoms, but not enough to completely liquefy the rock. So we have a couple phenomenons that happen. One is called foliation, and this is when layers that form, there'll be layers that form in some metamorphic rocks. If the pressure is exerted from one direction, we will see foliation. If the pressure is exerted from all directions, usually you will not see foliation. So there are two types of metamorphism. We have contact metamorphism and regional metamorphism. And contact metamorphism is exactly what it sounds like. This is a metamorphism that results from a pressure increase when a body of magma is actually in contact of a cooler existing rock. And so an example here is the hornfels, which is right here. And this creates, wrong way. Hornfels is right here. An alternating dark and light banding of crystals, because the darker crystals in this case might have a higher density versus the lighter crystals, which have a less dense, and so they will float more towards the top. A regional metamorphism is a type of metamorphism that occurs when great masses of rock change over a wide area due to, again, pressure. So the pressure is due to the rock and sediment layers above it, and our examples here is a rock that is called gneiss, and the G is silent, so we say this word as gneiss. So a little conversation about these pictures. So we talked about the hornfels, and the hornfels created this structure. Hornfels is a rock type, or a rock name, and it's a metamorphic rock, and it has created this particular structure, which is called the Matterhorn. And the hornfels are so hard, metamorphic rocks tend to be very, very hard rocks, that they created a peak, this very sharp and jagged, that we call the Matterhorn. When we look at the regional metamorphism, this is where we see that foliation. See the different layers. And I think of foliation as like flaky, because this banding also shows layered, but it's much smoother. So flaky foliation. And then we can see that this right here is an example of a specific kind of metamorphic rock called blue schist. And so schist is a metamorphic rock, and so is gneiss. So, like I said, metamorphic rocks are very, very hard rocks, and so they have some special uses. Quartzite and marble are the most commonly used metamorphic rocks, and they're used for building and materials and artwork. So marbles, like statue and decorative items like vases. Quartzite is very hard and is often crushed and used in building, like railroad tracks. Schist and slate, again, are also used in building and landscape materials. And so in our picture examples, we have marble. and it's used for buildings, like I said. And many statues in the Renaissance were carved from marble. So this is another marble example. And so Michelangelo created this Moses marble statue between 1513 and 1515. And it takes that long because, again, the marble is so hard and very hard to work with. But it creates these long-lasting statues. So that's the last of our 3 types of rock. And so kind of some key words to remember with metamorphic rocks would be heat and pressure, foliation, and banding.